Hello. Sleep is no longer just a lifestyle issue. It is actually a public health crisis. Millions of people are exhausted, medicated, and many of us frustrated, yet still not sleeping well. So tonight we ask a different question. What if restoring sleep is not about pills, but about restoring some balance? Welcome, everybody. I am Dr. Joseph Varon. I am co-founder of the Independent Medical Alliance, president and chief medical officer, and this is the IMA Weekly Show, which is produced by the Independent Medical Alliance. At IMA, like you all know, our mission is to bring honest medicine back into healthcare, grounded into evidence, science, clinical wisdom, and patient-centered care. Tonight's conversation brings two worlds, completely different, one from the other. Modern Western medicine, which is represented by, I guess, me, and traditional Chinese medicine. But rather than competing, rather than fighting against each other, these perspectives actually may complement each other in a variety of powerful ways, especially when it comes to sleep. So tonight, I am honored to be joined by my colleague and IMA senior fellow, who happens to be my daughter as well, Dr. Adylle Varon. Dr. Adylle Varon is a nationally certified and Texas board licensed acupuncturist and doctor of Oriental medicine. She is the founder of Ambrosia Integrative Healthcare in Houston, where she integrates traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, and herbal medicine with evidence-based wellness practices. She also serves as the secretary of the Texas Association of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine and has lectured both nationally and internationally on integrative healthcare and holistic healing. So together we are going to talk to you about the framework for healing sleep, and then we'll open it up for a deeper conversation. And the central question is, how do we move from managing sleep symptoms to restoring sleep? So with that, I want to welcome everybody. Adylle, hello. I'm glad to have you here, even though today we're not in the things. I think that I should start with one thing that I wanted to say. I do have a conflict of interest on this particular lecture. And it's not the fact that you are my daughter, but it is the fact that I don't sleep. And I am going to be talking to people as to, how can you guys get a better night's sleep and things like that. And it's taken me years to be able to function with 3 or 4 hours at most of sleep every night. But it goes with the job description. When you get phone calls every 10 minutes in the middle of the night from nurses asking you what to do with patients, you get to learn how to sleep. So with that in mind, we're going to show you guys a few slides, and then we'll get into a deeper conversation. So let me share my slides with the audience. Wait for a second. Well, for some reason, my slides are not wanting to come up. Livio, do you want to share the slides from your end, please?
Sure, stand by.
Thank you. Yeah, for some reason mine are not sharing.
Well, thanks for having me on board, Dr. Varon.
It is my pleasure, little one. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about sleep. But and yes, we are going to do, so that you guys know, our practice is a very unique practice. I practice Western medicine, and my daughter practices the Eastern medicine perspective. So we're going to try to complement each other, just like we do with our patients that have vaccine-related injuries or have any other issues. We're going to try to discuss it from the same standpoint, but this time for sleep. So let's get first an idea of how bad this is the problem. So next slide. How bad is not sleeping? I'm sure that many of you must be saying, hey, what can we do to sleep? What do you take to sleep? This is a serious problem. I mean, if you guys think that the pandemic was bad, I mean, the sleep crisis is much worse. Close to 30% of adults around the world suffer from insomnia. They can just not sleep. I mean, and the problem is that when you don't sleep, that impairs your mood, that impairs your cognition, that impairs your physical health. We know that from a scientific standpoint, when you don't sleep, when you have chronic insomnia, you have an increase in the number of cardiovascular events. You get depressed. Many of you have seen it in real life. I mean, you don't sleep for a few days and then you start catching colds and all sorts of issues related to immunity. And the biggest issue that we have is the challenge is how do we treat it? In Western medicine, we tend to rely on pharmacological treatments, and it's amazing the number of patients that come to my office, and one wants to get Ambien, the other one wants to get Lunesta, the other one wants to get. They want a pill that will put them down, without understanding that those medications carry risks, carry side effects, and more importantly, at some point in time, you get to have some dependence. Next slide, please. One of the biggest problems that we see is that most of us don't know what to do with our sleep habits. I mean, we don't know how to have a good sleep hygiene. And so that you guys know, for the purposes of tonight's lecture, we're not talking tonight about sleep apnea. We're not talking about narcolepsy. We're talking about basic falling asleep and avoiding insomnia. 70 million Americans are affected with sleep disorders related to insomnia, according to the CDC data. Yeah, I know that many of you don't trust the CDC data, or at least the old CDC data, but we know that this impacts the quality of life. I mean, and poor sleep not only leaves you just tired, it increases the risk of heart disease. We know that people that don't sleep well, for example, have an increase in diabetes, impaired memory. So you have to have quality of sleep. Next slide, please. So in Western medicine, we try to identify why people cannot sleep. And we always like to blame things on stress, anxiety, from time to time, underlying medical conditions. But one important one that many of us fail to identify is lifestyle factors. And on the basis of that is how we decide how to approach the treatment. And, again, I would say most clinicians that I see tend to go straight to pharmacological interventions. That's the first thing that they do. They forget about basic sleep hygiene protocols. And we'll be touching on sleep hygiene protocols in more detail further on this lecture. Next slide. And so that some of you who are not familiar with the terminology, sleep hygiene is a science in and by itself. Sleep hygiene is a collection of habits and environmental factors that actually promote what I call consistent restorative sleep night after night. Not just for one night. It's not a little pill. It's a series of things that you have to do. And we know that it helps. There are many ways by which sleep hygiene is accomplished. Next slide. This is, for example, one of the sleep rules. And so that you also know, all of these slides that we are showing will be posted tomorrow in our imahealth.org website, so you guys can access them, so you don't have to be taking notes or taking pictures of these slides. For those of you, or for at least that 30% of you that don't get to sleep. But there are some basic things that most people know that they shouldn't do. Like 10 hours before bed, you should not take caffeine. And by caffeine, I'm talking about not just your coffee. People forget that chocolate has caffeine. So that little chocolate cake that you're having at night, maybe that's not the best thing that you should do. The 3 hours before bed, no alcohol. I mean, a lot of people actually, on the contrary, they decide to take alcohol to fall asleep. without understanding that alcohol fragments sleep and actually makes things even worse. I mean, most of us who are workaholics, we shouldn't be working 2 hours before we go to sleep. 1 hour before you go to sleep, you should not have your TV on. But again, most of us have TVs in our bedrooms. You should not have your nice little cell phones by the bedside. Again, that is easier said than doing it. Next slide. One of the mainstays of sleep hygiene within Western medicine is to have a consistent schedule. I mean, it's very difficult for somebody like myself, healthcare provider, who you are up on and off, to keep a consistent schedule. But if you are in an environment that allows you to, having a consistent schedule is important. People should understand that the bed is to be used to sleep, not like some of us who like to eat in bed, while watching a TV show or something. Napping is amazing, and it really, 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 really helps. But realistically, you have to have some kind of a ritual, how you, over time, you will develop a ritual in which you have a routine before you go to bed. Next slide. The very basics to sleep well is have your room cold. How cold? 67 degrees Fahrenheit is what has been suggested for optimal sleep. A very dark room, if you want blackout curtains, use that. Or if not, one of those silly eye masks to block all light. A couple of webinars ago, one of our speakers was just saying this contraption that he uses to block absolutely all light. At the same time, you don't want to have any kind of light. You don't want to have any kind of noise. So try earplugs or white noise machines so that you can be able to fall asleep. Obviously, sleep in a mattress that is comfortable and remove any kind of distractors. I mean, one of the number one distractors that I see that get people in trouble is having a clock around, and you're constantly looking at what time it is, and I haven't fallen asleep, and so on. So it gets to be a lot of issues. Next slide. Learn when to exercise. We talked about alcohol, managing stress, avoiding stimulants. Next slide. But more importantly, what can you do if you can't sleep? I mean, this becomes a significant issue. My patients, they freak out, I mean, I tell them, look, if you cannot fall asleep after 20 minutes, just get up, do some boring activity until you fall asleep, stop watching the clock and see what time it is, because it only increases anxiety and makes you fall asleep. Now, within Western medicine, we do use a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, but I think that most people don't need it if they do these basic sleep hygiene things that we were talking about. Next slide, please. The reason why we want to transform your sleep is because we want to transform your life. We want people to feel better. We want people to be more productive. They having less health issues. Next slide. I think we need to take control of our sleep. We all need to do that. But you have to commit to a plan. You can use any rule you want in the Western medicine world. And remember why you are doing this. The most important reason why you are doing this is because you want to have a better health, be happy, be more successful. Western doctors love to give pills. They love to give pills, and they'll pill you to death if they can. That's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do, even some of us who practice Western medicine, is try to avoid getting you used to some of these pills or medications, and just do the basics of sleep hygiene that I mentioned. Now, Western medicine doesn't offer everything to fix insomnia. And I've had many patients that I just can't fix, and and no matter how many drugs you give them, they don't sleep. I mean, they take one after another and after another. And for that reason, I wanted to have Adylle today talk to us about the traditional Chinese medicine world and how can that help us. So, Adylle, why don't you take it from here and educate us a little bit?
Absolutely. Well, let's first talk about and kind of branch off what you just said. When we have patients that are just not being responsive to conventional medicine, I believe the first question we ask is, what questions are not being asked in your world? So let's start there. So in traditional Chinese medicine, just to give you guys a little synopsis, it's a systems-based medicine that tries to do its best at diagnosing the entire body as a whole. We see different channels in the body. And when you guys look at this slide and it says organs like heart, liver, spleen, and gallbladder, just know that this is more so referencing those channels and not your biological organs. It does sometimes affect it, but just keep in mind, we are not talking about organs in general. In this case, we're talking about meridians or channels. Think of this as your circulatory system. Think of this as the movement of the blood, as the lymphatic system, as everything that is movement and frequency within the body. Our job is to make sure that that is flowing, that that is moving, and that everything is in balance. Livio, next slide, please. Let's skip this one, go to the next one. Thank you. So there is a lot of research right now coming out since acupuncture seems to be a trend right now, with the system kind of failing us. People are resorting to natural medicine and medicine that has just been basically helpful and around forever. People are resorting back to our caveman medicine. Next slide, please. And we are showing now through evidence that some of these acupuncture points are actually releasing different hormones, different neurotransmitters that are allowing the body to kind of let go and allow us to relax, thus proving more sleep at night. And sorry, Livio, can you go back one more slide? Thank you. And so now we're actually able to measure this. Now we live in a modern day area where we can measure this and show, yes, acupuncture works. And see not only from patient discourse, but also on numbers and clinical evidence. All right, Livio, next slide. Thank you. Next slide. All right, what's really important too within traditional Chinese medicine, and I know y'all are going to see this and say, okay, this is a lot. But within those systems and in traditional Chinese medicine, we can break down a whole day into different smaller systems. So going into different meridians and going into those theories. The three main causes of insomnia in Chinese medicine are always going to go down to what are your emotions like right now? What are you eating? And what's going on ailment-wise within you? Next slide, please, Livio. So let's go back before we go into herbal medicine. I'm sorry about that. So we also have excess types and deficient types of insomnia that we'll talk about. But when we are disrupting our system, overworking ourselves, going to sleep late at night, constantly thinking about what we have to do the next day, our body's not able to restore and to nourish itself while we sleep. Because during the day, within traditional Chinese medicine, we are using our defenses to keep our immune system upright. But at night, we're taking that and we're metabolizing and we're nourishing that qi, that energy back in for the next day. So if any of these symptoms resonate with you, kind of take a step back, really look at the clock, say, hey, why am I waking up in between 1 and 3 in the morning? What is really going on during the day? Because within traditional Chinese medicine, the emotions are governed by the liver. So when we feel very angry, very irritable, it's waking us up at night, just turn back and look at this clock and say, okay, well, that's the liver time. So that will make sense. And with acupuncture and with herbal medicine, we can have answers and treatment that do not involve conventional pharmacological care. So next slide, please. All right, so these are like the 3 common herbal formulas, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in general, but we do have our own herbal pharmacopoeia that we use within traditional Chinese medicine. So I would consider these like your alternatives to your typical ambience. Not as strong and not as quick, but these herbs and acupuncture do take time in order for the system to respond. The first 2 are a combination. Most of the time we see the second one, the Swanzhao Rentang, used mostly for anxiety, but it's proven time and time again to be very calming for the mind. So when you see spirit, know that that translates to mind, and has proven effective for various types of excessive and deficient insomnias. Now, the second one, the Gui Pitang, we used to call this in school, we called it the student formula. So when you're constantly on the go, you have no energy, your digestion has taken a hit, you're not sleeping at night, this kind of just helps restore that energy, helps you get better sleep. And then the last one is really going to target our liver for those people who tend to irritability, have a little bit more prone to anger, just a lot of heat in the body, and we'll talk about that in discourse later, is the Jiaowei Xiaoyao San. It's a lovely formula for those who tend to anger, and it just is hard to rest at night, unable to settle down. Next slide, please. All right, so some techniques that we use in practice are always movement. Make sure that we have movement during the day. So is the body able to have that release of energy in order to wind down at night? And I want you guys to ask yourselves, what are you doing during the day? And this is something I ask my patients a lot. We talk about everything under the sun and back. So I have them run me through the last 3 days. So that way they're not just prompted with okay, run me through a typical day. No, what did you do the last 3 days? What did you eat? How did you move? What is your daily work-life balance look like? And so a lot of people leave out the whole mindfulness practice, taking a moment to themselves and being able to just breathe. You know, the typical concept of the bartender having to take a smoke break just to like have a moment to themselves. But really it's that deep inhalation sometimes that they just need, the realignment of where their breath is. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so one of the big ones that I really like telling my patients, especially when we're trying to do a realignment check, is something called the 8 brocades. You can go on YouTube and find various 8 brocade patterns. This is just a breathing technique. So anytime someone uses the word qigong, know that that translates to circulation exercise. So it's using the breath in order to exercise your circulation inside of you. A lot of this is really going to impact the oxygenation of our cells, which is to help us detox a little bit more at night. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here is actually something that, Varon, if you want, we can start really talking about like what we do.
Absolutely.
Together.
I think that this is a good point where we can start talking about some things that I think, I think that all this information that you have given, Adylle, is fascinating, especially for those of us who live in a different world. But we can talk about some of the things that we both have mentioned. And the first one I would actually like to ask you is, why do you think sleep has become so disruptive in modern life?
Because of access of information, because of our cell phones, because of the urgency that is modern day age. I think that we are so quick to have to please ourselves and those around us, and the quick action. I think that is what's limiting us to be able to take a step back and say, hey, how do I have to realign myself? How do I have to change in order to feel better? And especially like with our practice, We see people who just want a quick fix and they don't understand that, especially something like insomnia takes a little while. It's not, oh, I'm going to give you some herbs and you're going to feel better the next day. Sometimes it happens and it's fantastic, but it's maintaining that habit and turning it into practice.
And one of the things that I'm seeing is that at least Western doctors, those who practice some reasonable medicine will tell their patients to exercise and diet, but a lot of them underestimate sleep. I mean, people don't seem to understand that sleep is like very important. And again, conflict of interest. I don't sleep too much, but I do want my patients to sleep. That's a priority in my life, that my patients get good sleep so they can get the rest that they need.
But I think a lot of people too are submerging the emotional component to this and the diet. So diet is huge. In Chinese medicine, if there is too much in the stomach and in the spleen that are what help transform and digest and transport the energy through the body, if those are taxed, we're not sleeping at night. We are not metabolizing at night. We are not nourishing ourselves in order to have an energetic day the next day. So I think there is also I'm just going to say in your world.
That's okay. I won't take it personal.
Might get a little personal, but the questions are not getting asked. The questions are just being put on the back burner, and patients are also kind of lying to their doctor because they don't want their doctors to think that they're, unhealthy or whatnot. So there's a lot of fibbing going on, but I think it's the way that we as physicians need to reorganize and see what is really the root here. What are we doing to have our patients trust us a little bit more, and also feel comfortable becoming vulnerable and talking about the emotional toll that can be and is 75% of the problem when it comes to insomnia.
One of the things that I see, at least in Western medicine, is that patients usually get stuck in specifically, like times and number of hours that they want to sleep, at least in the Western medicine. Where do patients usually get stuck in your world when trying to fix sleep?
Falling asleep. The
Yes.
restlessness and the as we call the shen disturbed. So the spirit, the mind is disturbed because there's so much heat pent up on them, that the heat is what's generated from food. It's what's generated from the emotional toll. Also, and environmental. Our environmental is huge. I saw someone on the chat talk about the noise pollution. That's huge. Like living in a city like Houston, living next to the freeway, hearing the motorcycles go at night, that's huge.
And that's one of the things that people don't understand. I mean, when I was trying to talk about sleep hygiene, when you're saying no outside stimulants or stimulation, you don't want to have anything. Sound should be zero. And if you cannot, turn off all the things around you, use some earplugs. I mean, simple. When you get on a plane, the first thing that you do is you put on earplugs. When I travel long distances, I always have noise canceling headsets, because we know, and actually this has been known for a long period of time in experiments done in pilots or in flight attendants or in people that fly a lot of time. If you are constantly hearing that turbine sound, you will end up exhausted by the time you get to your destination. For that reason, you must always use some kind of an earplug or noise canceling device if you're going to be traveling a long distance. Now, where I think that Western medicine does well is if I want to put somebody to sleep, I can put somebody to sleep. I mean, the fact is that we can, and unfortunately, some people have gotten to do it in ways that are less than professional. You all remember what happened to Michael Jackson. He couldn't sleep. So what did they do? They gave him what I call it milk of amnesia, or propofol. And, that took his life away. So as Western clinicians, we're very good at putting people to sleep. However, it's just to get you to close your eyes and, quote, sleep. what's going on inside the sleep, that quality of sleep, that's the part where medications just disrupt it. Either you dream too much, you don't dream enough. I mean, they disrupt it in so many different parts. For those of you who are not aware of, sleep is divided into a part where you have what we call rapid eye movements, REM, and then another one that is called non-rapid eye movements, which is NREM. During REM is when you have your dreams. Dreams occur every 90 minutes in most normal people. For example, I can tell you, I can have a full dream in the first 10 minutes after I fall asleep because I've been trained to say that from so many years of doing that. But that is one thing that we can do within Western medicine, put somebody to sleep. But the problem is that when we put you to sleep, we're not giving you the quality of sleep that you need. And that's why I think it's so important that we integrate what we were discussing, try to integrate all of these issues. Now, some medications help. Some medications create a lot of problems. Many of the patients that I have sent you, they have come to me with God knows how many medications to sleep. And realistically, how often do we treat symptoms without addressing root causes?
We don't. I feel like we have a different practice though, and we're very fortunate that we have patients that listen to both of us. Sometimes they listen to me a little bit more than they listen to you, but vice versa. But we are very good at finding out everything about our patients. Like, we know our patients' dogs' names. We know where they live. We know what they do for work. We ask the right questions. And sometimes we get those patients, like you said, that have the laundry list of prescriptions that come in, and it's our job to start peeling them apart and really focusing on what is going on. And most of the time, it's just people do not listen to their story. Most of the time, there was a trauma years ago that their insomnia started long ago, but it was blown off as, oh, this is just, menopause, or this is let's just say it's hormonal or whatever, like a lot of the time we see that. And then I full-heartedly, like with the patients that you send over, most of these people, it's all emotional. It's some sort of trauma, even physical, emotional. It's some sort of trauma that had happened. And we're able to just, peel the onion and figure it out just with the right questions.
Now, because we're discussing about the East and West in this particular webinar, right. I really would like us to see if we have any differences as far as those traditional Chinese medicine define insomnia in a different way than we do as Western practitioners.
So in traditional Chinese medicine, we diagnose completely different than you guys. We diagnose the constitution. So we're breaking it up into that meridian theory that we were talking about. So in going into channel theory. So for instance, we have the lung, large intestine pairing. We have the spleen, stomach pairing. We have the heart, small intestine pairing, and they're always going to be in a yin and yang relationship. I know that is a lot to take in. But for instance, let's go back to the liver. Love talking about the liver because it's easy to see an angry liver as the governor of the emotions, right? So let's just see him for a little bit. When one of those organs and channels are blocked, where does that energy go? It can't go anywhere. It's stagnant. It's stuck. So what happens? It flares up. It turns into fire, just as a visual. So in Chinese medicine, we take pulses, we look at tongues, we palpate bodies, we get the story, but the body really tells us more of the story. So we see where those blockages are. We see where those deficiencies or those excesses are from. We talk a lot about the environment too, where people grew up. Sometimes I go as far as saying, tell me about your mother's gestational period. It goes really far back, and sometimes the pulse will just tell you all of that with the proper training. the pulse will tell you a lot more than what comes out of someone's mouth. So yes, we do our diagnoses and constitutionally. So insomnia, yes, while it could be an excess or it could be a deficiency, isn't our diagnosis. The body constitution forms our diagnosis within traditional Chinese medicine.
Well, there is no question that, we have a lot of reasons why people get in trouble. As I was saying earlier, we have a series of health concerns as it pertains to people that don't sleep well, whether you are not sleeping well because of insomnia or sleep apnea or whatever you want to call any sleep-related disorder. You're going to have more diabetes, more atrial fibrillation, more strokes, more hypertension. I mean, indeed, one of the reasons why people tend to have more heart attacks in the early morning hours, as it was mentioned earlier in the chat by Dr. Fukuda from Japan, is because of that imbalance. And yet, it may not be, I cannot explain it in your world of yin and yang, but I can tell you that from an hormonal standpoint, if you don't sleep well, if you don't get that religious sleep that you need to get, your system is going to get in trouble. You are going to start secreting a variety of agents that are known to cause a significant amount of problems. Now, as a Western practitioner, we usually go for the basics. We do melatonin. Why? Because the body normally, produces melatonin and is supposed to help you sleep. Now, interestingly enough, so people get a little more information of, we've been using melatonin for a lot of things. We've been using melatonin now even for cancer treatment. We use it a lot during COVID. People say, why? Melatonin, COVID? Well, early during the pandemic, we found out that the animal that had the most amount of COVID was the bat. Yet bats never got sick with COVID. And they did so because they produce a lot of melatonin. So that's how we added the old FLCCC and now IMA. We added in our protocols melatonin, and it actually worked out pretty well. Now, those traditional Chinese medicine incorporate anything even similar to melatonin or, any of those agents, or do you guys just use these herbal formulas that you were talking about?
So traditionally, we stick to the herbal pharmacopoeia, but now as practitioners of Chinese medicine are kind of branching out, we do prescribe people supplements, minerals, vitamins, all sorts of fun stuff. For me personally, when it comes to sleep, that's just something else to depend on. So I like to stick to the basics, stick to acupuncture, stick to moxibustion. And I'm going to show you guys, but I really enjoy, and I'm not sponsored. I don't take anything from this. There is this tea. I should have taken a picture so we could put it, but this, and I'll write it down here, but it's called Luna Tea by Griffo. And you guys know me, I love sharing all the fun patents that I find out there, but it's called Griffo Luna Tea, and it's chamomile, mimosa bark, polygonum, vine, and mint. And this is a very, very basic formula for sleep. And I have found that my most complex patients respond very well to this tea.
Yeah, and have you ever seen any side effects? I mean, one of the comments I just saw in the chat is, for example, when some people complain, and I have seen this a lot, that melatonin gives them nightmares. Have you ever seen any kind of adverse event to your chamomile tea product?
I have seen yes. And chamomile, for those that don't know, can induce labor at high doses. So I tell people, do not take this if you're trying to get pregnant. Do not take it if you are pregnant. Just don't touch it if you are in the world of pregnancy. And sorry, I am just typing this out for the chat. But yeah, there are adverse effects, and don't let anybody tell you that natural medicine is all safe, because it's not. If you are not working with a trained herbalist, it could be very, very challenging. I see someone in the chat says that mint can keep you awake. Yes, some mints can, but mint actually helps clear heat from the system. So this is actually very effective and well dosed in this formula.
A lot of people are asking on the chat some questions, and again, we later on will let Autumn come and talk. But people are asking basic questions. How do herbs differ from pharmaceutical sleep aids? I mean, your herbs from I know mine are plain old drugs. I mean, they act at different parts of the brain. They put you down, and simple as that.
So it takes a little time for these to build up, not gonna lie. Like especially with insomnia, it takes a little bit longer for it to happen. Are we dealing with heart, liver, emotional? Are we dealing with spleen, stomach, diet? Are we dealing with the kidneys from aging? All of this, it depends on the person, on how you respond with. Now, if you're pairing that with acupuncture, moxibustion, adding the herbs in, you're gonna get faster results. It all depends on the person. So I could not give you a straight answer on that.
But that's why it's so important that we try to personalize our medicine as best as we can, and that we take into consideration anxiety, digestion, all the other things that people are not taking into consideration. I mean, you've been talking a lot about some of these emotional issues and this energetic imbalance, but Western doctors don't do that. Western doctors, they want you to get a rapid response, and by rapid response is you're going to sleep tonight, and they'll give you the trazodons, they'll give you the whatever they want to give you, just to make sure that you don't call them in the morning and you don't tell them that you could not sleep. It appears that at least in Oriental medicine, you try to do more of a root cause analysis, understanding what's going on, what causes this. And I'm not talking about the just the phone and all the things that are around, but there is even gut health that you are talking about.
Sorry, you cut out there for like a split second. Can you repeat that?
Yes, I mean, what I was saying is that there are so many things that you are trying to bring. I mean, you mentioned some things earlier that were at least very important for me, like movement. You mentioned how gentle movement can improve sleep more than intense workouts from a traditional Chinese medicine workout. But yet the things that people forget to mention, at least in my world, is like, hey, you know what? You probably should be out in the sun and get a little bit of sunlight every day, and remember when is daytime and when is nighttime. We have a lot of issues with people not understanding that the night is to sleep. It's when your body needs to rest.
Well, I mean, let's think about children, right? Let's think about kids 4 and under. If those kids are not moving during the day, they are going to sleep like crap at night. And I speak this from experience. Like if they do not take their naps and they don't go out in the sun, they are not going to sleep that night. And that you can translate that into adulthood as well. Like if we are not getting our sunshine in the morning, we are not getting our movement during the day, we are not going to be sleeping. If you are not putting nourishing foods into your system, your body's going to be metabolizing more crud, and you're going to feel even cruddy the next day. So with acupuncture too, and with some of these herbs, we can help detox the system, and we can get the system detoxifying itself, feeling great, and keep on moving.
And is acupressure as good as acupuncture for sleep-related disorders?
Depending on the individual. As long as there is pressure or any sort of stimulation, I would say go for it. But yes and no. There are a lot of people that don't like needles, so we do a lot of acupressure. There are a lot of people that don't respond well just to pressure and like the needles. Again, one of those case-by-case basis.
I mean, again, what we need to make sure is that people understand that there are many ways by which we can approach this problem, but all of them deal with identifying the root cause, and then trying to do simple interventions. I mean, it's not the ambient of the world. I remember many of the patients that I have sent you, Adylle, that have been taking chronically serotonin antagonist or the ambience of the world or any other kind of sleep medication, and they could not sleep, and I send them to you and you put them to sleep. I mean, the fact is that anybody on your table when you are doing your acupuncture falls asleep, and I'm one clear example. I mean, the one part where I can rest, it doesn't matter how much noise is out there. If I go on your table and you're putting needles on my body, I will fall asleep.
But see, the beauty, it's not, I can't say that it's me. It's your body. Your body's doing it already. I'm just there to literally poke you and to trigger your response from your body, as the slides suggested, you know, and I urge people that if you want like the actual science, go start reading articles about this, because the actual chemical response that we're getting is huge. And now that we have it documented, is fascinating. So I look forward to the future of the clinical data that's going to surface, and that we have now the technology to actually measure. It's going to be awesome, but it does not change anything that I already do in clinic. I just want to premise that, like, if you are going to a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine, no article that you bring to them is going to, well, hopefully most of them, that's not going to change their perspective, because they are going to go through their diagnostic toolbox and use whatever tools they have in their toolbox to treat you.
So, I mean, I think that all of these things are fascinating. I think that we probably should bring Autumn on so that Autumn can ask us some of the questions that I know a lot of people are wanting to ask. I've been reading some of the comments, and I mean, some of the questions, some of them have no answers, but some of them are very, very interested. So, Miss Autumn, please join us.
Yes. Okay, we do have a lot of questions, so I'll try to be quick. One that Paul asked are, what are your thoughts on using CBD gummies to help with falling asleep and staying asleep? There are so many on the market today.
Okay, I'm going to leave that one to Adylle. She's a younger one on the...
You know, I love CBD gummies. I really do. With a slight, depending on where you are too, I'd be careful with like the THC component to it. But what is coming out and what my clinic has loved recently are mushroom gummies. Medicinal mushrooms being reishi, cordyceps, lion's mane. There's a brand out there that we, again, not getting any royalties for this, but there's a brand out there called Myco Clinic. And I'll send you guys this in the chat, but it's called Myco Clinic. And they have a musculoskeletal formula, but their sleep gummies are fantastic. I've been getting a really good response from my patients with them. And yeah, CBD is an anti-inflammatory agent. It's people say it's not psychoactive, but it is psychoactive. Not in the you're going to get high sense, but in the calming sedative way. So yes, again, it's going to the Shen, the spirit component, the restless mind, getting the body to kind of relax and go to sleep. Love them though. Make sure the ingredients don't suck though.
Another question that we got, and I know you guys talked a lot about ambient, but any advice for tapering off of ambient, Elizabeth asked.
I'm going to give that one to you, Varon.
Well, I mean, yes, tapering off of any of these agents needs to be gradual. I mean, even melatonin, I would say stop slowly, don't stop everything at once. If you're combining that with an SSRI, I mean, we recently had Dr. Joseph give a whole lecture as to how you should be doing this gradually. If not, you are going to get in trouble. Now, a lot of people, I've had hundreds of people that have been coming to talk to me that, let's say that they take melatonin, and they are stopping melatonin because there was a study that was recently done in sunny New York, showing that people that were taking melatonin on regular basis, they were having some extra problems with congestive heart failure. NBC News said that, this was terrible and stuff like that. However, there is no evidence that, low dose melatonin will actually give you any of those problems. Having said that, every time you are going to be stopping any medication or weaning any medication, you must do that with your trusted healthcare provider. I mean, there is no magic as to how to do this. One problem that we have, at least in Western medicine, is that we tend to substitute. We tell somebody, okay, so you are not going to take melatonin today, but let me go ahead and start you on the Ambien. So you are taking one poison to give another one. And to be honest with you, I'll take the melatonin any day over any Ambien.
Another question that we got from a couple different participants, so I'll just kind of summarize various questions, was just sleeping with really bad ringing in their ears, suffering from tinnitus. Do you guys have any recommendations for them on a lot of them? One of them had also said that she likes to keep the TV on because it's the only way that she can sleep without hearing the ringing in her ears.
So in Chinese medicine, all of that is related. The overstimulation, which is why we also need that supportive sound, the ear ringing, the insomnia, all related to the kidneys and liver at some point, depending if it's high pitch or low pitch tinnitus. I would suggest trying this world first. If it doesn't work for you in a couple weeks, go to conventional med, but there are great formulas and acupuncture points for this.
And there is actually a lot of interesting data coming in that way. Actually, I was recently with Dr. Ryan Cole discussing this and the effects of photobiomodulation. I mean, the use of near infrared light to, kind of bring down the tinnitus so you can actually fall asleep and actually improves the quality of your sleep. So there is a lot coming out. We actually have a paper coming out in the Journal of Independent Medicine in the next few months on that I'm sure the readers will enjoy.
Teresa asked, can anyone try the teas that you had mentioned, or should we be seeing an herbalist, especially if we are currently on medications?
See an herbalist, especially if you're on medications. Some of these are really safe over the counter. But again, if you're on anything, please see an herbalist.
We still have more questions, but since we are almost near the top of the hour, I will leave it to you two to give any closing thoughts that you might have before I move over to our longer list of closing announcements.
Excellent. Well, let me just start with from the Western standpoint. So from a Western standpoint, I think that I like what the Eastern standpoint does, and that is let's find the root cause as to why you cannot sleep. I am a big believer, even though I don't practice it, of sleep hygiene. I think that most cases of insomnia can be fixed if you have good sleep hygiene, if you have that routine, that it's like a religion, that you are going to practice before you go to bed. Unfortunately, most of my colleagues don't think that way. They think that a pill, it's a simple way to put you to sleep. And I hope that most of the people that saw us tonight, they really look for the root cause of what's causing this, and they try Western medicine. And if that doesn't work, then try Eastern medicine. Adylle?
So I kind of want to bounce off what you said. I kind of like your world sometimes too, for emergencies. But if you are in this situation and you're like, I have tried everything for my insomnia, and you haven't tried Chinese medicine, then you have not tried everything. We should be your first line of defense when it comes to these kinds of things. So if you ever have any questions or anything, please, if you guys want to give my email address or my website, please do share it. I love sharing information. I do not gatekeep anything. And I will find someone near you, but try this. This medicine sounds weird. Some people don't understand that there is, if you are a good licensed practitioner, there is no spiritual religious component to it. It is very factual. And now with all the data coming out, it's even more intriguing. My dad can't call it hocus pocus anymore because there's factual data behind it. And it's really rewarding when you're able to take people off their medications and not rely on melatonin or your Ambien or anything, and start realizing just little small daily practices make the biggest change for your quality of life because you're sleeping and sleeping is great. So yeah, I'm going to leave you off with that.
Dr. Adylle Varon, would you like to share the website with our audience? Your website? Just want to let everybody know who's listening. We will also include the slides, just so everybody knows that the doctor shared tonight, as well as Adylle's website and a bunch of other information on our website by tomorrow afternoon, evening time, Eastern. And it will also include the recap of the webinar that we do every week. We do that every week, and it's posted to our website on Thursdays. So if anybody is looking for notes from this meeting, from this show, you can find it there on imahealth.org. All right, doctors, thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of your wisdom. I'm going to move over to our closing announcements.
Thank you so much, Autumn.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Ed.
We are thrilled to announce that one of our IMA senior fellows, Dr. Elizabeth Mumper, she has been appointed to the newly formed Interagency Autism Coordinating Committee created by Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Dr. Mumper has been a long-time and valued contributor to IMA, playing an important role in advancing pediatric education over the years, and we are incredibly proud of her and the work ahead. Next week, we hope that you will be continuing the conversation with Unpacking Peptides, Part 2. Join us on Wednesday, February 4th at 7 p.m. Eastern with Dr. Christina Carmen and Dr. J.P. Salibi. We hope to see you then. And as another reminder, as I've been reminding you all each week, we are getting closer to our conference. We hope that you'll join us for the 2026 IMA Medical Education Conference, Emerging Trends in Medicine, a two-day gathering dedicated to the latest innovations, research, and forward-thinking practices shaping the future of healthcare. This event offers a dynamic program of expert-led lectures, networking opportunities, and hands-on learning through Abstract Alley. You can get your tickets at the link on screen, which is imahealth.org/conference. We wanted to highlight the Medical Academy of Pediatrics and Special Needs, or MAPS. This is a partner organization that we are proud to work with. They're hosting an upcoming conference, and we encourage you to join them. MAPS will be in Charlotte, North Carolina from March 12th through the 14th of this year, and you can register today at medmaps.org and use code IMA 2026 to receive 20% off of your registration. And we are also pleased to share that IMA Senior Fellows, Dr. Elizabeth Mumper and Dr. Catherine Welch will also be at that conference. IMA is building a trusted referral network, connecting patients with independent clinicians vetted for ethical patient-first care. Your support helps us fund platform development, provider onboarding, and public access, so patients can finally get the answer to the question, where can I find a doctor that I can trust? You can support this work by donating at imahealth.org/donate. Well, thank you again so much to Dr. Joseph Varon and Dr. Adylle Varon for being here for this important conversation. And thank you to everyone watching live or on the replay. If this episode was helpful for you, please share it so more people can begin restoring true restorative sleep. They can begin experiencing it. But before we close, we wanted to share a clip from Dr. Joseph Varon discussing a study from the latest edition of the Journal of Independent Medicine on hypertremia and mortality in ICU patients with acute respiratory failure. Let's take a look. Thank you all so much for being here, and good night.
Hi, I'm Dr. Joseph Varon. I'm the President and Chief Medical Officer of the Independent Medical Alliance and Editor-in-Chief of the Journal of Independent Medicine. One of the issues that we see in critical care on a regular basis is what happens to the sodium levels of patients. So in this issue of the journal, our team looked at the National Inpatient Database Set. We looked at millions of medical records and specifically look at what happens when your salt levels or your sodium levels are very high on admission to the intensive care, and what happens specifically as it pertains to your respiratory system, and whether or not you would have more or high or less mortality. Well, we found out that having a high sodium level was an independent risk factor for people to die or to have worsening complications from respiratory failure. This is actually something extremely important, especially for those of us who continue to work in critical care. As you can tell, the Independent Medical Alliance continues to do research in the areas that started this organization, which was the care of critically ill patients. You can check this amazing paper at journalofindependentmedicine.org and look at all the other interesting papers that we have in this issue.